Yeah, we're now live, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So I shall start the meeting now. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Cornwall Council Strategic Planning Committee on Thursday the 7th of January 2021. I have this to read out as my introduction, so because we are live streaming this is a virtual meeting. So good morning and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee. Before consideration of today's business, I will outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. If the council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a further date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period to try to re-establish their connection. As I call members to speak, I will remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the Democratic officer will advise you. The vote will be taken by roll call of committee members by Democratic officer. Where a member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or any interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they will be invited to rejoin the meeting at an appropriate time. To confirm the procedure for today's meeting, members of the committee who wish to speak on an item should indicate by raising their hand. Before we start today's business, I will ask the Democratic Services Officer to ask the committee members to confirm they are present and state their electoral division. Sarah?
Sarah Goodall, Democratic Services. Councillor Bastin.
Good morning, John Bastin, Councillor for Constantine, Morland and Budok.
Councillor Batters.
Good morning, Chris Batters for Llanivit, Blisland Division.
Councillor Bull.
Good morning, Jackie Bull, Councillor for St Austell Poltaire.
Councillor Code.
Good morning, Councillor for Hale South, Graham Code. Thank you.
Councillor Dyer.
Yes, John Dyer, Kenwyn, Chasewater. I'm the local member.
Councillor Evans.
Geoffrey Evans, Cornwall Councillor for Falmouth, Arwennick.
Councillor Foote.
Mittendar, Jesse Foote speaking, Cornwall Councillor for the St Germans and Landulph Division.
Councillor Greenslade.
Good morning, Fred Greenslade, St Denis and Nanpian Division.
Councillor Hurd.
Good morning, John Hurd, Councillor for Camborne Pendarvis Division.
Councillor Kaczmarek.
Councillor Mark Kaczmarek, Councillor for Caharrock, Gwenyp St Day Electoral Division.
Councillor Long.
Good morning, everybody. Councillor Andrew Long, Callington Division.
Councillor Nicholas.
Good morning, Councillor Sue Nicholas for Marizine and Perranethno Division.
Councillor Parsons.
Hello, Councillor Adrian Parsons, representing the Elton Division.
And Councillor Rand.
Councillor Julian Rand, St Kevin and Maneague Division.
Thank you. We also have some additional members who are present with us today. We have Councillor Tudor, Councillor Dwelly and Councillor Harris. And we have officers present at the meeting today. We have Gavin Smith, the Planning Group Leader, Matt Doble, the Principal Development Officer, Ben Kerno, Senior Lawyer, myself, Sarah Goodall, the Democratic Team Leader, and my colleague Angela Saunders from Democratic Services, who is the meeting producer. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I'd like to welcome Graham Code to the Strategic Planning Committee. He has a wealth of experience from the West Planning, so welcome, Graham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Next item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any, Sarah?
Sarah Goodall, Democratic Services. No apologies received, Chairman.
And declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest?
If members could raise their hand if they have an interest.
I can't see any hands raised.
I'd say no interest, Chairman.
Okay, one hand raised by Councillor John Dyer.
Yeah. Do I have to declare I'm the local member again?
No, Councillor Dyer, that's fine. I've already got that noted, that your role in the meeting today is that of the local divisional member.
And what does that mean?
Yes, Councillor Dyer, that means, as per the Constitution, that as the local divisional member, as part of the public speaking part of the committee meeting, you will be allowed to speak on the application as the local member, and then you will be given a reminder when you've been speaking for 5 minutes, Councillor Dyer.
Am I allowed to make a proposal on this application?
No, you're not, Councillor Dyer.
I thought that would be the case. Right.
Thank you. That's the same for all councillors. You cannot vote or make proposals on an item in your electoral division. So, you know, just for people who's live streaming this is something that all councillors have to abide by. Councillor Tudor got her hand up. Councillor Tudor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to ask if we can possibly be provided, Chair, with an explanation as to why Councillor Dyer's pecuniary interest in the Young Farmers Club, which was in the area of the development within the red line of the Langhast development, isn't deemed an interest in this meeting, why he's allowed to speak.
I'll bring in Ben Curnow on that one. Can you answer that, Ben, please?
Yes, yeah, happy to explain. So I would firstly I'd say that ultimately it is up to individual members, isn't it, to get advice on their own interests, and Councillor Dyer has done that. What's been agreed with Simon Mansell, who is in charge of interests, if you like, and members, that's his area. What's been agreed is that for each application that comes forward, Simon Mansell will consider Councillor Dyer's position, and he has done that in this case. What Simon has had to look at is whether or not this application directly affects the value of Councillor Dyer's land. So he's looking at the pecuniary interests. Now, Simon's concluded that in this application, it would be a stretch to suggest that that was the case. So we've taken advice from Simon. He doesn't believe that Councillor Dyer has a pecuniary interest in this application, each application being considered on its own merits. And Councillor Dyer can remain as the local member. As Councillor Kosmarek has explained, the local member is always treated in the same way. So he can stay, he can ask questions, he can speak for 5 minutes, he won't take part in the debate or be able to put forward a proposal. And ultimately, in general, if any member considers that there is a breach or another member is suspected of breaching the code, then they could report that in the usual way. But we have spoken to Simon Mansell. He's our authority. He heads up that area, and we're happy that we've covered it off. And also I know that Sarah has had conversations with Councillor Dyer as well. So we're satisfied.
Thank you for that explanation. I just wanted some assurance that we are talking about not Councillor Dyer's own sort of property and farmland, but his pecuniary interest in the land at the Young Farmers Club. I would imagine that would have been considered. So it would be all of his interests, won't it, and how how this application would affect them. Lovely, thank you. Thank you. I find it very interesting that, of course, I wasn't allowed to sort of be in the room when I had a non-pecuniary interest, but the member is allowed to be in the room with a pecuniary interest within the area. So that's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll now move on to the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of November 2021, pages 1 to 4. We'll go through them page by page. If anybody's got anything to raise, please indicate. So we'll go page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. Are we going to do a roll call on the true and accurate record, Sarah?
Yes, please, Councillor Kosmarek.
Okay, so if we can have a proposer and seconder, this is a true and accurate record. Can we have a proposer, please? Councillor Parsons and Batters.
Yes, okay. I would point out, Chair, very minor. It won't upset me at all, but there's a T missing from my name.
Okay.
Apologies, Councillor Batters. I will get that amended. So we have a proposal on the table that the minutes of the last meeting be agreed, proposed by Councillor Parsons, second by Councillor Batters. When I call your name, members, if you could state whether or not you are for, against or abstaining. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Code.
Abstain.
Councillor Dyer.
For.
Councillor Evans.
I need to abstain because I couldn't get into the meeting that day. My system was down, so I need to abstain. I wasn't there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Foote.
For.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Kazmarek.
For.
Councillor Long.
For.
Councillor Nicholas.
For.
Councillor Parsons.
For.
And Councillor Rand.
For.
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that that has been agreed.
Okay, thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is our application for consideration. Members are encouraged, in the interest of time and efficiency at the meeting, to contact the case officer prior to the meeting should they have had any questions or comments on any of the following applications. So this application before us today, 4.1 PA 20/09599, land southeast of Landgarth Park and Ride, 3 Milestone, pages 5 to 34. Construction of an energy centre incorporating an electricity substation and battery storage, ancillary groundworks and landscaping with a new vehicular access from the Landgarth Park and Ride site. Proposals include a new pedestrian route from the Park and Ride, incorporating a viewing area of the energy centre, including an environmental statement. So the case officer on this one is Matt Doble. So over to you, Matt.
Sorry, Chair, I was having a few technical issues there, but I'll start the presentation again. Right, hope you can see that, the presentation, Chair.
Yes, we can see that. Right,
yeah.
Cam.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. There's just wasn't quite working there for a second. So thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. I'd just like to refer members to the addendum update, which includes comments from the Highways Officer and recommends an additional condition 14, which seeks to secure the pedestrian access between the Park and Ride and the Quiet Lane, and also to close the existing Quiet Lane entrance from vehicles and to make it pedestrian only. The update also includes a copy of the letter referred to in the committee report from Trelisk Hospital, explaining their support for the application. And just one further verbal update. This morning I have heard from public protection officers in relation to air quality, and public protection have confirmed that they have no operational air quality emission concerns. Any potential dust impacts from construction activities will be controlled by the recommended condition 7, which concerns a construction environmental management plan. So just moving on to the key issues. The key issues are that there's potential support to existing key infrastructure, notably the developments, the emerging developments at Royal Cornwall Hospital, Trelisk, so the Children and Maternity Hospital, as well as the works to the extension of the Trelawney Wing that are currently being undertaken. Delivery of early infrastructure as part of any wider development, so that's either the existing consents in the area or any forthcoming emerging permissions that may be granted, such as the Landgarth Garden Village application that's pending consideration at the moment. Noise in relation to existing properties, design and change in the character of the area. So just moving on to the location plan. So the site is outlined in red. As you can see, it's adjacent to the Park and Ride. The Park and Ride is situated to the west and north. The A390 is the green line that runs from west to east. And the World Heritage Site is the dotted outlined area to the west of 3 Milestone and 3 Milestone Industrial Estate, and to the south of the A390. Just zooming in now to the site plan. So again, site outlined in red. Again, the A390 to the south, and you can just see access or the site is to the north of the Quiet Lane, with currently a vehicular access from the Quiet Lane. It's proposed that vehicular access for maintenance of the energy centre would be through the park and ride once it's operational. And then just an aerial plan. So as you can see at the moment, the park and ride site, development to the south, scattered development to the north of the A390. And as members will be aware, there's a series of permissions, existing permissions to the north of the A390, which will be highlighted on a slide that's coming up shortly. As you can see, the existing site as a previously developed character. So just moving on to the plan context again, just to outline the application site in red. The site is part of the ownership of Cornwall Council, so it's under the applicant's control. In terms of those existing permissions, the light blue area, Langar Farm, has a planning permission granted sort of 2013, 2014. Willow Green Farm, which is the purpley shaded area to the south of the application site, and the Hendra site has benefited from a series of planning permissions sort of granted anything up to sort of 5-6 years ago. Silverdene is a property, the nearest existing residential property to the proposed site, which you can see is just to the east of the park and ride site and to the north of the Quiet Lane. Silverdene, the occupants were obviously notified of the planning application, and we've received no comments from them. So just moving on to the submitted plans. This is a constraint plan submitted by the applicant. The two kind of key points to draw from this plan really is the fall of the land to sort of a northeastern direction, and as you can see, there's some overhead sort of cables in the area. Now just moving on to the proposed site plan. So the transformers and the control building and the telecoms tower would be situated to the sort of northeastern part of the site. They would be enclosed by a gabion stone wall. That would be a maximum of around 4.3 metres in height at its highest point. And adjoining that would be a battery store. That is a fence that is planted up effectively, and you'll see that in effect on the elevations that we'll show shortly. The pedestrian link, as you can see, is just to the northwest of this slide, the left-hand side, and it ramps up from the park and ride site across the existing bund and then down through the site towards the Quiet Lane. And the entrance of the Quiet Lane would be enclosed by a Cornish hedge to restrict it to pedestrian link only. As you can see, there's details on this plan for some further planting. I'll just show you that on the proposed landscaping plan, which is next, which gives it in a little more context. So there's proposals for 17 trees to be planted. Those would comprise oak, rowan, ornamental pear and field maple, as well as a wildflower planted mix. So those are the sort of the diagonal black lined areas just to the west and north of the energy centre. And all those details will be controlled by condition 10 of the recommendation within the committee report. There's also proposals to give a boundary between the council's land ownership and the nearest residential property, which is Silverdene, which is the green linear feature to the southwestern boundary or southwest of this plan, which we'll highlight in the photos which will follow the plans. So just turning to the energy centre again in detail, as previously, the general arrangement: switch room, control room, telecoms tower, 2 transformers enclosed by a gabion wall, and then the battery stores within a green planted fence to the southwest. The structure in total is 69.3 metres in length and 27.1 metres in width. And just now moving to the proposed elevations. These are sort of cross-sectional elevations just to give you the context. So looking from the northwest, so looking from the park and ride site, you can see Silverdene, which is the existing property to the east. You see the existing bund structure, and then looking at the energy centre itself, you can see the planted green walls of the battery store, the gabion walls around the substation or the transformers, which you can see just protrude above the top of the wall there, and then the telecoms tower and control building to the west. And again, the middle section, so section 2, which is from the quiet lane direction within the site, looking across again, the main area enclosed by gabion walls, and then the battery stores enclosed by a green planted fence and Silverdene property to the west. In terms of distances from Silverdene, it's 60 metres from Silverdene itself to the green fence where the battery store is, and 43.5 metres from the shared boundary. I'll now just move into some sections through the viewing platform area. So the top one is from the park and ride site going north to south, so from right to left, through the proposed energy centre, or particularly the battery store area. So the battery store area is just to the left hand side. And again, the one below is sort of going from west to east as a cross section. So again, you can see just that viewing platform area, which is just where the mouse is on screen at the moment. The idea being that in time, once renewable energy sources hopefully come through any emerging planning permissions in the area, anybody walking through the site could see how that energy is being harnessed and how it is delivered basically to be used by developments in the area. And again, just a couple more proposed sections. So this is through the actual energy centre itself. So that's just to show you the existing arrangement as I've previously described. So 2 transformers and the control building within the gabion wall area, and then the batteries within the green planted wall area. And again, just going through the control room section at the bottom. So now just turning to the site photo. So this is a view from the quiet lane. So the site is to the left-hand side behind that boundary hedge. The existing vehicular entrance is just out of shot to the left-hand side of this image. And now we've just moved into the entrance, the existing vehicular entrance. You can see it's wide enough there for a vehicle. And this is just to give you a feel of what the site is like and the existing circumstances that it's being used for. So it's storage of sort of materials that the highway guys in Cormac use. So you can just see the existing bund to the left-hand side. It provides some screening to Silverdene. That would be retained and planted up. And again, just turning to the left. So if you can see there, the Harris fencing, that is roughly the location that the Cornish hedge, proposed Cornish hedge, would be to provide a better boundary between the applicant's land and the neighbouring residential property Silverdene. And then just another view around again, just directly facing Silverdene, so you can see the relationship. So if you can picture a Cornish hedge and some planting roughly where we're stood, separating the site to Silverdene, there would be an enhancement to the existing boundary and sort of relationship between the site and the existing property. We're now just within the park and ride, looking at the bund where the proposed ramp would be, connecting the pedestrians from the park and ride site through to the quiet lane and any future development that may occur in the area. And again, now we've just made our way up to the top of that bund. So we're looking across now, so you can see the site. So we're looking back basically at where we were previously stood, where the previous photos were taken. So you can just see the vehicular entrance right in the middle of the photograph there. Silverdene to the right hand side of this image, just behind that container. You can see some of the vehicles and sort of storage that's on site at the moment. So in terms of the visual impact, hopefully this proposed development, it would result in an enhancement of the existing site characteristics. I think we can all see that. So in terms of the balance of considerations, the recommendation is potentially beneficial in supporting the provision of power for the development of improvements at Trillis Hospital. And you can see the letter from RCHT, which expresses their support and the need for additional power to serve their emerging developments. The early delivery of this infrastructure could support the wider development proposals in the locality, and notably offers the potential for storage of any renewable energy proposals that come forward in time through Langhoff Garden Village. Those renewable energy sources could involve geothermal or solar photovoltaic energies, either on panels either on existing properties or sort of above the park and ride, the park and ride extension, which is proposed as part of the Langhoff Garden Village hybrid application. The proposal was considered to result in enhancement of the character and appearance of the site, given its current nature and previously developed appearance and use for storage. Suitable measures have been included to reduce any impacts with respect to noise, and those are set out in the committee report and recommended to be controlled by condition. And it's noted that Kenwyn Parish Council and Truro City Council both expressed support for the application. So the recommendation, Chair and members, is approval subject to those conditions as set out in the report and the additional condition set out in the addendum. That concludes my presentation, Chair.
Thank you for that, Matt. We now go on to speakers. And we have a list. The only one I have here down for speaking is Kenwyn Parish Councillor Laborde, and then we got the agent, Terry Grove White afterwards.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, it's Angela Saunders, meeting producer. Councillor Laborde is on the line, but I had to mute her as there was background noise. So, Councillor Laborde, if you can hear me, you need to press *6 on your telephone keypad, and that will unmute you. Yeah, Councillor Laborde is now unmuted, Chairman.
Okay, welcome, Councillor Laborde. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak, and you'll be reminded when there's 30 seconds remaining. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome to the meeting.
Good morning, Strategic Planning Committee. I wasn't expecting to speak this morning. I was here just to listen to your talk about this and see the presentation on the Energy Centre. Kenwyn Parish Council support this application for all the right reasons as been outlined today by Matthew Doble. But my concern, and I did actually vote against this, was for Silverdean House and the residents who live there. The Energy Centre is quite impactful in size, and its position adjacent to this development did concern me. In particular was the viewing platform, and I didn't know what level of footfall is expected to go and visit the Energy Centre and how this would impact the residents of Silverdean House. I think this morning that has been presented in a much better way than it is via the documents online, and it looks like the residents are going to see quite a good degree of protection and privacy. However, Kenwyn would like to know what the expected footfall is of those coming to visit this Energy Centre and how this could potentially impact the residents of Silverdean House. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, and I think it's a very valid one. Can you answer that, please, Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't have any figures to hand, but what I would say obviously is dependent on what future uses come through in the surrounding land parcels, but I don't think we're talking about huge numbers, certainly initially. And as you can see, hopefully you can see the slide on screen, there's obviously substantial planting to the existing bund that would provide screening to the property at Silverdean, and as well as the Cornish hedge. There's almost like a double boundary of planting that would in time would exist to prevent any sort of overlooking or the knowledge of people walking along that pedestrian path.
You think that? Does any member of the planning committee or councillors want to ask a question of the parish councillor?
I have my hand up, and Andrew Long does, Chair.
Yes, I have my hand up as well.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Andrew?
Many thanks, Chairman. It was just really a question regarding the initial comments made by the speaker. Were those comments your own, or were those comments reflective of the parish council?
No, the initial comments in support are my own and the parish councillors who support the Energy Centre. The rest about my concerns about the residents of Silverdean House are my own particular comments.
Lovely, thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Batters?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mine was exactly the same question. I just wanted a confirmation of exactly what the parish council had said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. No other no other questions for the parish councillor, so thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Terry Grove White, agent.
Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Grove White.
Good morning, Chairman.
You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you'll be reminded when there's 30 seconds remaining.
Thank you very much. When do I start now?
Start soon to start speaking.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. The application before you has been submitted by Cornwall Council to seek approval for the construction of the Energy Centre at Langgarth has just been outlined to you. So I suppose it's very quickly, what is the Energy Centre? Well, in the context of Langgarth, it's made up of two components which have been outlined. So there's 2 electricity transformers, which effectively provide the infrastructure for future development in the area, and 4 batteries to provide storage for future renewable energy. The site itself is not going to generate any electricity, but is required to provide that infrastructure, both to meet future needs and to store powers, meeting some of the ambitions of the council generally in terms of supporting renewable energy. The total capacity of the 2 substations is 24 MVA. This is estimated to meet the requirements of the future Garden Village proposals, which are around about 18 MVA, with the remaining capacity available to support the Royal Cornwall Hospital Trust proposals and development and other opportunities. The transformers, once built, will be operated by an NDO, a normal energy company, as with any other provision. And the batteries, we anticipate at the moment, will be operated by an ESCO type structure to support the provision and use of renewable energy. So one of the questions obviously is why now? Well, as part of the development of the Langgarth Garden Village proposals, the council's committed to early delivery of critical infrastructure in a coordinated manner, one of the criticisms of previous developments. The early delivery of the Energy Centre forms part of that commitment and supports the delivery of both future developments such as the Garden Village, as and when or if that is approved, but also other existing critical projects such as the Royal Cornwall Hospital Trust improvements. The provision of infrastructure of this type has a significant lead in time, so early provision of the centre will help ensure, irrespective of what happens with Langgarth Garden Village proposals, other projects such as RCHT, etc., are not delayed by lack of capacity. So the design of the site. So the case officers outlined that already, I think, quite helpfully, but we sought through in developing the design of the site to have work from an understanding of the site and the issues involved, and to try and respond to those. We've also used, I think, the principles that we're setting out and trying to develop as part of the Garden Village to help develop the feel for that scheme. So I think hopefully you'll see the design quality of the development is very different to what you might expect to see on a standard substation if you see them around the country or around other developments elsewhere. The design principles include
30 seconds.
Include the use of those facilities, minimizing the impact, using the slope, in creating the structure in terms of gate-ins, etc., and the provision of a very comprehensive landscaping scheme, and the provision of the viewing platform to provide for the potentially limited interest but opportunity for education around renewable energy. In conclusion, both the parish and city councils have not objected to the proposals, and we've not received any other objections from statutory consultees. The proposals are supported by the hospital.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. There's a question to the speaker. I have 2 hands up at the moment. First one is John Bastin. John?
Oops. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, really, can I go back to the battery unit, for want of a better description? Presumably that's not going to be loaded up with batteries or functional until a much later date. Would that be correct?
No, we'd like to put the batteries in to provide that storage. The actual storage will then only be used once we've got the renewable energy coming into play.
Right, thanks very much.
Okay. Councillor Sue Nicholas.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple really. Mainly, if you're having a viewing platform, how are you going to ensure security of that site, given the world that we live in at present? And the other one is, there's been mention in the reports about the hill fort at Dovisac and the telecom tower. Could I ask why you have not considered, or why you aren't putting in a tree effect telecom tower instead of just a steel structure?
Okay, thank you. Two elements to that. So in terms of the viewing platform, we looked about this and thought about it, because the easy option would have been not to include anything on it. But in a sense, I think what we think is quite important here is to not hide away when we're looking at sort of an approach in terms of climate change, about supporting renewable energy, for people to understand what that means and what sort of infrastructure you need to support the delivery of some of those ambitions that we all talk about. So we have looked at the issue of security on it. So the Park and Ride site itself is a secure site already, and we've, in looking at the proposals that I think the case officer outlined earlier on, when we're looking at the footpath that goes through the site and the actual viewing platform, we've looked to create there'll be a gated structure on the quiet lane as it currently states as well. So as it kind of stands, it would be forming part of the Park and Ride and be secured in that way. In terms of the second question, in terms of the impact or potential impact on the setting of the hill fort, I suppose we looked at this in a number of different ways, really. So if you look at the design of the scheme, we tried to work that into the slope, so it reduces any visual impact when you're viewing it from further to the north. And when you do view it from that, it's a fair distance. And also, you have to see it as viewed against the context that develops around it. The one element, you're right, the one vertical element that comes out of that is the telecoms tower, which ultimately might be lower than that, but we put the sort of worst case scenario on there. So that's providing sort of remote control, if you want, for the energy centre. You can look at other forms like tree structures, but actually this is a simple structure. It's simple and in terms of its design form, and I think fits quite nicely without being too unobtrusive. I think sometimes if you put what you might call sort of more contrived approaches in terms of sort of fake trees, if you want to call it that, there it can actually stand out more. So this structure, when you set against the paraphernalia and buildings and facilities along the top of the A390 and the ridgeline, I think we feel fits reasonably into that, and so there's a minimal impact on the setting of the hill fort.
Can I just come back? Yeah, I don't think there's been that much consideration looked at in terms of making that look like, if you want, a fake tree, because there's one down at Blackwater that you wouldn't know was, unless you had been told that it was a telecom tower. And certainly palm trees and all sorts of things can be used as they do out abroad. So I think that really needs to be looked at in terms of, if we're going to have, you know, a garden city and we're going shoring landscaping is good. I think that really needs to be looked at. And the other thing I would say was that whilst the Park and Ride area might be secure, in this day and age you have no idea what people are carrying on them, if you're having a viewing platform, and quite frankly, what are they going to see if they actually stand on the viewing platform?
Can you answer that, Tim, please?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Terry.
Yeah, that's fine, don't worry. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons in terms of not giving figures for number of potential sort of viewers, they're not seeing a lot. There's an educational opportunity there in terms of signage. We'd be talking about what the energy centre does, and obviously you will have views across the site from there, but it's not a sort of visitor destination as such in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the speaker? No? Okay, well, I'll now bring in the local member, Councillor John Dyer, and welcome, John. And you have no limit on how long you can speak, but after 5 minutes, I'll ask you to wind up if you could, please. Councillor Dyer?
Yes, I'm listening now. I'm unmuted. That's the best thing you've said for a long time, that there is no limit on the local member. But I realise if I go over too long, the committee will get fed up with me. If I could make a proposal, which I don't think you will accept from me, I would recommend a deferral of this application until the furlough scheme, which comes in soon, and let the new council sort it out, because this council is on its dying legs and there is so much controversial situation with the whole Landgarth development that it's got to be carefully looked at stage by stage. To go back to the energy centre, Mr. Chairman, I'm very concerned, as your previous speaker, about this latticed tower building, or towers, because on one of the diagrams Matt Doble showed, it showed in fact 2 towers, but I didn't have time enough to look at them, to study them. There they are down the bottom, look, whether that's 2 pictures of the same thing, or whether there is in fact 2 towers there. And I worry about them, Mr. Chairman, in as much as the wind whistles through lattice work and makes quite a din if you're close to it. The residents of Silverdene Bungalow have lived there for many years. When they bought that bungalow, it was merely an agricultural field or an agricultural landscape around it. But now they are surrounded by park and ride, and this land was bought by the council as a park and ride extension proposal, and that appears to be forgotten, and the energy centre is levered in. 2 aspects of that, besides the lattice work, that bothers me is the drainage from this site. As we are being told, drainage ponds are the feature right down through this valley to take surplus water pending climate change, which even I am beginning to think has a real possibility of the situation. I've never known my personal land wetter than it's been these last 2 winters in a lifetime, and I will admit to being 70 years old. And the land, I've never seen it as wet as it was this last 2 winters, and that is not a good feature of controlling the water that goes into the River Kenwyn, and that is a debate that needs to take place. What seems to be happening to me is when we get a strategic planning committee meeting, the planners bite off a series of plans. This Landgarth planning application is coming for the crunch vote next summer, and I'm of the opinion you are trying to go bite by bite by bite, and then one day I shall be told, well, you have taken, the committee has taken so many bites, the council has endorsed it, and there is no return. And there are so many problems with this entire development. It all ought to be looked at with a great deal of care. And what was particularly annoying, Mr. Chairman, and I don't expect you can see it, but I had this report yesterday morning at 11:45 on the 9th of January, and here's the meeting on the 10th. And I don't think that is much of a
5 minutes.
A situation for democracy in the life of the council, and that is why I would wish to, and I hope somebody will take this up, this need to defer this whole application. The lattice work in that tower bothers me enormously for the residents of Silverdene Bungalow, and they must be better protected than lattice that causes whistles. And you are on the top of the ridge here, and the wind is quite strong on the top of the hill, and that's a big concern, and it must be worrying the residents of Silverdene.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dyer. You've spoken there for nearly 6 minutes. Do you wish to add a bit more, or can you sum up now?
How do I sum up, Mr. Chairman? I would hope the Truro members would support the recommendation to defer, because it affects Truro. If these swales are full of water and they overflow, what then? So the question of New Mills Dam has been looked at, and 2 questions raised there, and if they raise the height of the dam, they will flood out properties upstream towards Silverdene, effectively, because the height of the dam was engineered, the valley surveyed as an agricultural valley, not a valley to be built with about 7,000 houses on, at least.
Okay, Councillor. What we will do, we're actually, the application before us at the moment is for the energy centre.
I accept that, Mr. Chairman. So it's another bite along the way, and they will end up with enough bites that they will tell us as a committee that we have passed the whole caboose, and the whole caboose needs a damn sight more questioning than it's been having to date on it. And there are so many worries. If you raise the height of the dam at New Mills, sir, you will flood out properties upstream. If you don't, you will flood out Truro. And Truro under flood in Victoria Square is not a popular scene. And read this report that I tried to read yesterday. I tried 4 times to contact Matthew Doble, but his phone was on a standard answer machine, and he has never yet rung me back. And 11:15 yesterday till today is not a very good treatment.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Dyer. We shall note what you said there, and just for the purpose of the webcam, you put forward a proposal. The recommendations that are on the table are for approval, and that's been supported by Truro. So you've had your say. I'll now open up. If any members of the planning committee wants to ask you a question, I'll let them ask you a question. Is there any questions, a local member? I can't see any hands up. Thank you for that. I'll now go on to questions of officers. Any questions of officers? Well, I'll ask a question of an officer first, okay, and then I'll bring in Julian Rand. I don't know which officers this will be aimed at, but there has been, and Councillor Dyer has raised the issue of lattice, and I think Councillor Nicholas as well, the lattice tower and noise, and actually disguising this tower so it can be blended in better with the hillside. Can something be done about that noise, and would there be noise generated from this substation energy storage plant, which quite often is quite low level, and having the property right next to it could impact on their health? Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, shall I answer that one, Chair? Is that okay? So yeah, no problem. So in terms of the noise, obviously we've asked colleagues in public protection to look at the submitted assessment and the proposal in general. The noise officer, public protection officer who looked at noise, didn't raise the lattice tower at all in any sort of noise impacts in the locality. So I can only conclude from that public protection don't see the lattice tower being an issue in terms of noise. In terms of the energy centre itself, there's quite a detailed assessment there on pages 19, 20, and it goes over to page 21, so that's paragraphs 55 to 63. But there's a detailed noise assessment, and probably paragraph 61 is the most important one, really. It sort of sums up the mitigation measures. There will obviously be a low level background noise, but the separation distance combined with sort of the gabion walls that are around the transformers, and the mitigation measures include selecting transformers that would be specified with a sound power level that does not exceed 65 decibels, selecting fans for the battery storage units that do not exceed power levels of 90 decibels, set the enclosures for the air cooling fans, and all those measures set out in paragraph 61 are controlled by condition, and the noise officer from public protection has looked at that and recommends that those mitigation measures were controlled by condition. So we think we've addressed the noise issue adequately. In terms of the lattice tower, what we could do if members were minded to seek that, we could craft a condition that does notwithstanding the submitted design, further details to be submitted in relation to the design and appearance of the tower, if that's what members were minded to do. Obviously, we've looked at the design of it. It's honest. It is what it is, and we took the view that would be visually acceptable. But I'm obviously picking up on what some members think of it. So that is potentially an option if members wish to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll now bring in Councillor Julian Rand.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. And my question is to Matt, I think. Matt, the public protection no comment as far as the noise from the lattice tower. Can we please ask them to give a comment? I don't think no comment is good enough. If there is concerns about it, and it's been raised by Councillor Dyer, I think we should specifically ask the question: is there at all a noise element involved? I think we should know that, and if there is, I think it needs to be addressed. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my point is, I think it's one that Darcy raised, or someone did earlier on, about this viewing platform. I mean, quite frankly, I can't see why you need a viewing platform to look at big storage containers. You know, an information board at the base of it on the park and ride, I'm sure would satisfy just as much. I do have concern about the fact that there doesn't appear to have been any consultation or any consideration of security in terms of, you know, in this day and age, we have got people who are blowing places up, doing all sorts of things. So in that context, how, from a viewing platform, are we going to ensure that there is any security so that that can't happen? You know, because it's going to leave itself as wide open as a target, as far as I can see. And yes, you know, in this day and age, when we're supposed to be looking at green infrastructures and all the rest of it, putting up lattice towers when you can get perfectly good, and they're used all over the world, you know, fake trees that are actually telecommunication centres, then I think that should be part of this design. And the other bit, that coming back to the noise assessments that were carried out, they did do those, but they also said that they couldn't guarantee that those would be the levels when it was absolutely in use on the ground. So I think that needs to be looked at as well. How are we going to ensure that the people from Silverdene aren't going to be impacted? And does the viewing tower overlook the Cornish hedge and the planting that we're going to put in to protect Silverdene? And I'm also concerned that there doesn't seem to be any comments anywhere from the people that actually live in Silverdene as to what their thoughts are on it.
Can you answer that, Matt?
Yeah, I'll do them in reverse. So in respect to the occupants of Silverdene, obviously we've written to them as local planning authority, notified them that the application is with us, and if they wish to make any comments, we've not received any comments from them as local planning authority. The council as applicant and as landowner, I understand, has been in contact and written to the occupants of Silverdene, and I think that is highlighted certainly within the application submission. I think in the committee report that the preference by the occupants of Silverdene is obviously not to have anything there, which is understandable, but they were glad to see that the energy centre was being pushed as far away from them as possibly can be within that site, and that there's enhanced landscaping measures to be installed. So they have been contacted by the authority as a whole, and haven't raised an objection to the planning application. In terms of the lattice tower, I can only really reiterate what I've said before. Really, is obviously we think we're recommending approval. We think it's an honest. It is what it is. But noting the concerns raised, you could, if you were minded to, impose a condition that sought some further clarity or changes to the design. That's entirely within your remit to do that. I can't quite. The other question was noise, I think, wasn't it? In terms of the noise, obviously there'll always be ongoing monitoring. The mitigation measures set out the maximum decibel levels for the transformers and fans, and we would always have that statutory responsibility from environmental protection, environmental health, to investigate disturbance. Obviously, there's two forms of control. There's control through the planning condition, and obviously we are landowner as well. And I think that we will continue to be the landowner. So there's two forms of control there, really, from the authority.
And the security from a viewing platform. Why do they need a viewing platform?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I think the applicant explained that it's one of those things. Do you do it or do you not do it? In terms of looking at it from the whole Landgarth Garden Village viewpoint, and if you are installing renewable energy sources, I think it from an educational point of view, it's obviously desirable to show how that energy is harnessed, how it's used, how it gets from A to B, or further on. So I think the desire for it is obviously encourageable and supportable. I know what you say about security. You can't legislate for everyone's personal behaviour. The park and ride site is a secure site. There is security there. As the applicant stated, the pedestrian gate would be locked, and the park and ride site is locked at night. So we would do the best controls that we can do are there, and it would just be, again, it's an ongoing monitoring. The council would still be the landowner, so the council could install further measures in time if problems do arise.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that. I'll bring in, we've got a list of speakers now, or questioners. Fred Greenslade next.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As most of you know, I live by the incinerator in St Denis, and that site has total security. There's a fence around. Anyone wishing to visit and be engaged in the production of the site or recycling or whatever can go and view the site by appointment only, and they are chaperoned the whole time. Now, I think it's a big mistake to encourage people to go to this site without supervision. Now, that's the first point I would make. The second thing would be the lattice tower. I don't think it's difficult for the planning department to introduce a better scheme, and not a lattice, but something more acceptable to this committee and other people. And the third point I wish to make is that the noise levels are being presented on brand new equipment. As we all know, with mechanical things, as things wear and get older, the noise levels increase. Yeah. So I am concerned that these levels that are quoted today will not reflect what might happen in 5 and 10 years' time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Councillor Greenslade. And next committee member to ask a question is John Bastin.
Well, thanks, Chair. Matt, can I take you back to the batteries I mentioned earlier on? Are we using current battery technology, or are we going to use sort of future battery technology? And what would you think the life of these batteries might be? I asked that in as much as how much disruption would be caused if the whole lot had to be changed.
Yeah, my understanding is it will be the latest technology. Obviously, like all things, batteries have a limited life and that they'll need replacing in time. I can only assume that we will continue to use the latest and current technology or suitable technology that we can. They will require maintenance and replacement. Essentially, if you look at paragraph 70 of the report, page 22, vehicular trips would be low. So vehicles are sort of coming into every 6 months, larger articulated lorries less frequently than that. So the batteries will require replacement, but it's sort of, you know, yearly or plus really, rather than sort of on a regular basis.
Right, if I can come back on that very quickly, one assumes if they're not being loaded, in other words, not having power put into them, then their life is going to be shortened anyway, isn't it? So there's a big question mark in my mind as to why the battery facility is there, unless we can put a kind of a future onto it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think in terms of construction process, obviously it's more efficient to do an installation in one go. If you're out there on the ground doing your groundworks and also underground cabling or anything that's involved, it's always better to do that in one go rather than do sort of half of it and then come back and do the second half later. So that's the reason I think obviously it's there in the first instance. And it may be that renewable energy applications come forward quickly, and it's useful to have the battery store there so it's ready to go. It's about the delivery of early infrastructure to support what may come forward, and also the existing property and developments at Trellisk.
Right, thanks. And
thank you. Sorry, I just got to apologise to Fred. He asked a question earlier, and I didn't let Matt answer the questions that Councillor Greenslade was asking.
Right. Okay, Mark. I was just going to quickly say, presumably these batteries are going to be on some sort of trickle charge to keep them healthy, shall we say?
I would assume so. To keep them, it's obviously in our interest to keep them working efficiently. So whatever needs to be done, I think would be done.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll go back to Fred Greenslade because he did ask questions. I didn't let the officer answer his questions. Have you got a list of what Fred asked, or should I just get him to summarise what he asked just now?
Do you want, yes, if Councillor Greenslade could summarise.
Just bring you in again, Councillor Greenslade.
Yes, certainly, and thank you, Chairman. The first thing is the difference in the perceived security of this proposal and the incinerator at St Denis. There is no comparison at all, because St Denis is totally secure and visited only by invitation or permit, and is supervised continually. I think it's a big mistake to allow people to go to a viewing platform and have a look at this site, and I wonder if that could be taken out of this application. That's the first question. The second one is the lattice tower, and I think there is some movement on that, so I would appreciate Matt's views on that. And the third thing was, as things get older mechanically, they create more noise, and I wondered how they're going to monitor that and get it attended to. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I'll do them in reverse again. So in terms of the noise and sort of obviously ongoing, as they sort of become older, they may sort of generate more noise as they're not as efficient, etc. Obviously, all the equipment is subject to warranties and those sorts of things. It's like all things. If they need replacing, they'll need replacing. There is the condition in terms of the noise levels. If those noise levels are breached and we're made aware of that, then obviously we would, as the LPA, contact the landowner or the operator, to install measures to rectify that, to keep them at the acceptable levels. So that's hopefully answered that question. In terms of the tower, we could, members could, if they wish to, impose a condition, so a notwithstanding condition, and we could look at potential design alterations. I think it would be helpful if members could give a clear steer as to what they would like to see in terms of those changes, so we can advise the applicant of the sorts of things that we envisage. In terms of security, I can only really reiterate what we've sort of discussed before, really. The renewable energy sources obviously are quite visible, whether it's photovoltaics or wind turbines or whatever it is, and some of the times where that energy is, how that energy is produced and fed through to the system, is that opportunity is missed, whereas that's something that the Energy Centre is looking to provide, that educational opportunity. But I know obviously it's causing quite a bit of concern to members in terms of security. All I can say is the park and ride site is secure, that there is security on site, and at night this scheme would be locked. It does retain within the council's ownership, land ownership. The council would still be the owner of the Energy Centre, and it is within its gift to restrict access from the site if it chooses to do so. So it does remain within the authority's control, is all I can say, really.
Okay, thank you for that.
Comment, Chairman, please.
If you want to come back, Fred.
Yes, please. Very briefly. I think the visiting of that site should be the other way around. It should be by appointment from Cornwall Council and not restricting people as a secondary thing. I think if it's secure totally and then by invitation, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for that, Fred, and we can add that to our comments when we make our decision later. Councillor Batters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I actually was coming back on the questions that Councillor Greenslade had raised, but you have since answered them. But one thing, Matt, that has concerned me many times over the years in many different areas is the fact that the word monitoring is used quite regularly. I can remember in the previous council when wind turbines and solar farms were all the rage, we did in actual fact, strategic members visited certain sites, and I can remember visiting a couple of sites where the equipment was very noisy, even though it was almost brand new. But when we say these units are going to be monitored, is there any specifications within the acceptance of something like this where the monitoring periods are listed? Are they such that they're monitored every 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or what have you? Or are they just monitored when somebody thinks, oh, we ought to go out and have a look at that and see how noisy it is? So I'm just interested in whether the monitoring that you stipulate is actually specified time-wise.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, in terms of noise, what we'd be looking for in this instance is if a noise complaint is raised, whether that's by a resident, the existing residents or future residents, obviously we would need to go out and look at that. So we need to do our own or do our own recordings, get the applicant to do some recordings, get some data as to what the noise levels are. So that's what I mean by monitoring. Obviously it's a complaint or an inquiry initially, and then we would need to go out and investigate that.
Okay, you happy with that, Councillor Batters?
Yeah, it's literally not being monitored, then it's being followed up by complaints, but that's fair enough. I didn't know whoever was responsible for them, whether it was a condition they did a periodic monitoring of it rather than sitting down in the office waiting for the phone to ring with a complaint on the end of it. So I wouldn't actually call it monitoring, I would call it responding, we might say. But yes, happy if that's the case, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I would assume that engineers would visit the site on a regular basis anyway to monitor it, but that's what you assume. Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Matthew. I've listened to concerns raised by members today regarding the lattice. Could you just confirm if there's been any public representation or opposition to this, as I'm not actually aware of any, please?
No, we've received no objections, no representations from the public, other than the one from the hospital and the one from Walker's Developments, which are a landowner in the area. Both expressed support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll bring in the non-committee members now, and the local members also expressing to speak. So I'll bring in Councillor David Harris. He's had his hand up for quite a while.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillors Nicholas and Greenslade have actually made, to a large extent, the point I was going to make. Viewing platform. If you was to view an arc furnace, it would be great. But I'm not quite sure what one can view apart from a static building and listen to a bit of noise. You know, Councillor Nicholas has raised a security question, as has Councillor Greenslade. Is there really any point to a viewing platform? The officer has said you can see what's going on. Well, nothing's going on. He then mentions wind turbines and solar panels, but you can see those from anywhere. This seems to be an unnecessary security risk and indeed an unnecessary cost. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you want to comment on that, or is that just a statement? Matt?
I suppose what I could say, I'm picking up the viewing platform is quite a strong concern. I think what is open to you is obviously you could, it's within your gift to recommend potentially a boundary enclosure, a gating to the viewing platform. So it is, as Councillor Greenslade suggested, is bookable only. If that overcomes concerns of members, so you keep the pedestrian footpath element open, so that people can walk from the quiet lane to the park and ride, but the viewing platform is closed off, and that's by appointment only, if that helps members in their deliberations.
Thank you. I think that makes sense. Do you need to come back, Adrian, or not?
If I could, Chair, please. One other question that's come to mind. Can I just also ask, members have also raised concerns about noise from the substation. I would imagine there will be a little bit of low-level noise for sure, but obviously it's positioned next to the park and ride. I was just interested to know what usage there is from the park and ride, and how often we do have buses running in and out of that site, because I would imagine there's noise coming from there.
Yeah, so the noise assessment that's been undertaken obviously had regard to background noise. So that would include obviously usage of the park and ride. So that's people turning up in their cars, parking, you know, turning on the engines, as well as buses, and just background noise from traffic in the area.
Thank you.
Okay, is that answers your question, Adrian?
Well, it does, but I'm not that familiar with that site. So is that park and ride is used fairly heavily, is it?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, just to come, yeah, it's it's heavily used.
Just with regards to numbers, and how regular would we have buses visiting that site?
Well, at the moment, obviously slightly less buses, but my understanding is it's sort of every 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes in peak time, certainly a bus is coming and going from that site.
Thank you. So there is obviously noise coming from the site directly adjacent. That's all I'm just trying to satisfy my own mind with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dyer, local members been waiting quite a long time to come in. Councillor Dyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. There is comment from the residents of the property known as Silverdene, and it's number 20 on page 12 of the calling papers that I got yesterday morning, that I'm still grumbling about quite seriously. And the neighbours are saying that they would prefer to have no development on the adjoining land, but understand the need because they're very nice people and would welcome a reduction in traffic along the quiet lane. But if that is a part of their reason statement, it's not going to happen, Mr. Chairman, because the traffic along the quiet lane is building up every day. That there's traffic on the A390 by the wise guys who try to dodge all the traffic lights between Trelisk Hospital roundabout and the A390, the actual roundabout they will come onto there. And it's a rat runner's race, Mr. Chairman, and it's widely used.
Okay, thank you. I've just got
I hope the committee realise that. And the other thing about the park and ride car park, Mr. Chairman, it is terminal. It does not run beyond 7 o'clock in the evening. So they've got quiet evenings, but they won't if this lattice work is whistling all through the night.
Okay, thank you. I've had someone just come in for a point of order. I don't know who that one is.
That was me, Chairman, Councillor Andrew Long. It was really regarding Councillor Dyer's continued comments. We have a protocol that tells us when the councillor is allowed to speak and give their comments, and we're in danger of setting a dangerous precedent for this committee if we keep on doing that and just allow and more comments to be made rather than questions. And I understood there was going to be a question.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Councillor John Hurd.
Yes, Chairman. I've got a concern about why do you need a footpath going to Quiet Lane from the park and ride? If you look on them, there are no house. The only house there is what's called Silverdean. Yeah. Are they going to use that to walk into who's going to use that footpath? I don't think that should be included in the plan at all. It's just ridiculous. You're people walking out onto a rat run. Why can't they come out through the main entrance into the bus station or park and ride? That's all I've got.
I'll get the plan officer to answer that one. Matt, if you can answer that, please.
Yeah. In terms of, obviously, there's existing consents and the emerging Langgarth Garden Village application, which is pending at the moment. As part of that, it's desirable to increase permeability, particularly in terms of pedestrian movements. So you need to look at sort of future and developments that come forward in time. It is considered desirable, and the highways officers obviously recommended the inclusion of that pedestrian link to increase that permeability. In terms of the quiet lane, there are aspirations as part of the hybrid application for Langgarth Garden Village to reduce vehicular traffic on those routes. It is recognised that they are used as rat runs, but we need obviously to be mindful that they do provide access to property. So it's finding that balance in terms of reducing traffic, but also allowing existing residents to access their property. So that is all part of the hybrid application that's currently in at the moment.
Okay, thank you. And I think if we can get footpaths put in, they are welcome. I don't know if Councillor Dyer has still got his hand up or haven't put it down, but just to remind members, this is questions officers, not a time to make statements. So if you have a question, Councillor Dyer, can you ask it? If it's not a question, then lower your hand, please. Okay, there's no more questions of officers, I can see. So thank you for that. We'll now go into debate. So who wants to start the debate? Councillor Sue Nicholas.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I understand the reason for the requirement of this. I think there's a few kind of like reasons why it seems to be needed, and it's varied from Langgarth Village development to Treliske. So I think it's a bit of a mix, but I understand why it's needed, especially if Treliske are adding extras because of the powers that will be needed for some of the equipment. My concern is I'd like to see the removal of the viewing platform, because I don't see any reason for that whatsoever. That can't be covered by a information board there. And I'd also like to see the lattice tower being removed and a monopole tree effect, of which you can see lots of images if you look on the search engines on internet. And I think that I would feel a lot happier if that was done. Thank you.
Thank you. See, what are you moving the recommendation with those conditions then? So
I would like to see those conditions in it, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, can I say I have the utmost respect for Councillor Dyer's comments. You know, he's a local divisional member. He understands the lie of the land. He's lived there all his life, and I can also fully understand where he sees that these applications are coming through in a bite-by-bite process. unfortunately, though, we can only judge the applications that we have in front of us on their own merits. For me, this is actually quite some scheme to produce an energy centre incorporating an electricity substation with battery store. It has the capacity to provide the energy for Langgarth Garden Village and also enough surplus capacity for the Royal Cornwall Hospital at Trelisk and that hospital's expansion. We all are aware of the pressures that they are under, and I think one thing we all want is to see improved and greater facilities at Trelisk. Not so long ago, I listened to many of you express your support for declaring a climate emergency in Cornwall. Now, if we're going to take this seriously, this is exactly the sort of facility that's required to meet this obligation. This energy centre will help, in my view, towards bringing energy self-sufficiency to Cornwall, which I think is something we should aspire to have. Obviously, there'll be still power coming in from the national grid, but it will also give us a greater capacity to generate renewable energy, as has been said, subject to planning permission, whether that's through solar panels or geothermal. But as we all know, the biggest issue with these is harnessing that energy. Most of what we produce here is actually pushed back out through the creaking grid as we can't store it. So any capacity that's up to date and modern, I think battery storage wise should be welcome. You know, there have been comments made, is it going to be the most up to date? Well, I'd imagine we're going to install the most up to date battery storage today, but it probably won't be the most up to date tomorrow. So we can only do what we can do with today's technology. This in turn, as I've said, will help improve the energy security. We've heard comments about the lattice. I think actually in the design of substations, the planners have gone out the way to put something in that's somewhat aesthetically, I'm not going to say pleasing, but more in keeping with the surrounding. Quite often the old style ones are bulky, boxy, awful looking power stations or substations, so that's kind of to be commended. The viewing tower, I don't really have an issue with it. I think we're just being open and transparent. That to me is a benefit. I take on board what Councillor Greenslade has said. He has a great knowledge of the centre next door to him, the recovery centre, and I think perhaps if it was if viewings were to come forward on a bookings kind of basis, that would probably be welcome. But for me, I'm comfortable with the scheme we have in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask the officers to remove the plans from the screen because we can't see the members that are talking there? Can you move the plans, Matt, please? That's better. Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Andrew Long, Councillor Long.
Yeah, thank you very much. I find myself in a very unusual situation of agreeing totally with Councillor Parsons, and I think that's probably the first time I've had that's been happened for quite some time. I also have incredible sympathy and agreement with the divisional member, local divisional member, on the issue of the incremental number of applications coming through for this area, and I think that is something we really need to address. I'm not particularly, I don't have a particularly strong view either way regarding to the viewing platform, but I think it should be, if it's going to be there, it needs to be by appointment only, and it's not something that could, like as Councillor Greenslade has said. But overall, I think we did declare a climate emergency. We do need to be doing what is proposed here. So yeah, I will be supporting the proposal. But I'd like to hear what other members have to say regarding the viewing platform and the monopole. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Batters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree with pretty well everything Councillor Parsons and Councillor Long have said on this so far, and also Councillor Nicholas. I would happily support what's in front of us here. I'm not quite so concerned about the lattice work, because I'm sure there must be some alternatives to lattice work without going into trees, or, well, I know it wouldn't be palm trees, but false trees there, yeah, fine. But I'm sure, I mean, I've got some big masts in my area, and they're not all lattice work masts, and I'm sure something could be done, but that doesn't concern me too much. And overall, I see this as a good scheme, an application that I would happily support. So I think you've got a proposer and a seconder, have you now, I believe? Obviously, Councillor Nicholas, Sue proposed, I believe, and did Andrew second or Adrian second? Because if not, I will, but I'm not sure where we are.
Well, when I asked if Sue was proposing what she proposed, which was the mass being disguised and, you know, better blending in with the environment. So she put forward some issues about trees, but she did say the removal of the viewing tower. Listen to the debate. I think there's a number of councillors who seem to be more supportive of the viewing tower, but by appointment only. So
yeah, well, that's what I was going to come on to, Chair. Yeah. I would support what Councillor Long said and the concerns of Councillor Greenslade on that. I do think, I mean, just across the road, along the road from me, I have the big recycling centre there, and that's all fenced off, all security around that. Even though they do visits, anyone can go there. But I think this should be restricted to, if they're going to keep the viewing platform, it should be restricted to appointments only. So overall, I'm pretty happy to fall in line with what's already been put forward and seconded if necessary.
Well, thank you. Just get some clarity on what's been put forward and if it was seconded. Sue?
Yeah, hi.
If I can just bring you back in again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind proposing appointment only viewing if that's what people are happy with. It's just to maintain the security, as we all know in this day and age. That's really important. The tree one, I just think, you know, we need to make a bit of effort and not just stick a steel structure up when you can get wonderful looking pine trees, oak trees that are monopole construction. So I think as long as that's looked at in terms of how that might be mitigated. Okay. But yeah, happy to propose that.
Just trying to think, did we have a seconder on that?
Councillor Casmarek, Sarah Goodall, Democratic Services here. No, we haven't had a seconder now. So we've got one proposal on the table from Councillor Nicholas, which is to support the application with the existing conditions and with some further conditions, which would be that the viewing platform remains, but public access is restricted by an appointment only basis, and that the lattice tower the design be considered. Matt Doble did have some helpful wording on that before, Councillor Nicholas. Is it all okay if I ask him to come in and repeat that?
Yeah,
I'm happy to support that as well, Chair, if you wish.
Okay, I'll get Matt to come in, but I do have a number of other speakers coming in. Councillor Dyer, you can't speak on this now, so if you put your hand down. You're a local member, you can't take part in this debate. Next councillor on the list would be Julian Rand, but if I can get Matt Doble just to come in on this a minute, please.
Yeah, so I've been listening and sort of just picking up on what Councillor Nicholas has been saying there. So I think what you're after in terms of the viewing platform is a condition that's along the lines of a gated boundary enclosure to the viewing platform to be submitted and approved by the local planning authority, together with details of an appointment only or management of an appointment only system to be submitted and agreed with that, satisfy that. That part of it. In terms of the lattice tower, what we could do is a notwithstanding condition. So notwithstanding the details of the lattice tower, details of a proposed telecommunications tower to be submitted and agreed with the local planning authority. But what I think would be helpful, obviously, is a clear steer as to what you're looking for to help us as officers when we contact the applicant to discuss that.
I'll send you some photographs from the internet.
Okay, is that yeah, okay.
Well, I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Okay, so we've got a proposal from Secretary. Okay, I'll now bring in Councillor Rand. He's been waiting patiently.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was going to raise a few of the comments, and like Councillor Long said, I totally agree with what Councillor Parsons said and Councillor Nicholas. I'd be very happy to support it. I think these slight adjustments to it, but in principle, the need for this type of battery storage, I believe, will be a great asset in the future as we come forward with green energy structures. So happy to support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Code?
Yes, I'd just like to make the point that I am not in agreement with Councillor Nicholas, not for the first time. We've got an ultra-modern park and ride system. We have an ultra-modern power hub put in next to all modern road systems, and everything's up to date. And I honestly think some fake tree is going to look out of place rather than a normal aerial or tower at this place. So I can't agree with the tree business. The rest of it, fantastic. A meticulous report, really brilliant thing. I see no problem with security. If criminals are going to target these hideously expensive and valuable batteries, no amount of security is going to stop them. I think the viewing platform is a good idea. I'd like to walk up there with my kids next time I use the park and ride, and I don't see any reason why we should do away with that. My personal preference would be to pass this application as set out in the report without any modifications. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Cow. Got Adrian Parsons come back in.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I would just like to agree with Councillor Code with regards to his comments to perhaps imitation fake trees as lattices. Unless they've improved significantly from ones I've seen in the past, I've considered most to look at.
Okay, you frozen?
You know, that's the thing. I don't really have much to add, but
okay.
Some thought needs to be given to the lattice. Perhaps the new fake trees are great, but from history of the ones I've seen, I wouldn't be comfortable with having that put up.
Thank you for that. Okay, so there's no other councillors got their hands up on this one. We do have a proposal put on the table by Councillor Nicholas. That should also include the condition 14 that's in the addendum. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Cosmatic. Currently, we have a proposal by Councillor Nicholas, seconded by Councillor Batters, which is to approve the application as set out in the report with the additional condition in the addendum, which was circulated yesterday. And then we have two further conditions, which is that the public access to the viewing platform be controlled on an appointment basis, and also that work be put in to improve the design on the lattice tower. I think we've got some debate whether or not that the direction of that has been quite specific enough for the planning officers. I don't know whether or not Councillor Nicholas wants to make sure that does include the tree design, her suggestions around that design, or whether or not words like improvement, aesthetically improving, will be sufficient for that. I think that's just the bit of lack of clarity we have at the moment, Councillor Kaczmarek.
Okay, thank you. I'll just bring in the proposer a minute, Councillor Nicholas.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, people obviously haven't looked at modern designed tree effect monopole communication towers. And as I pointed out, there's one down in Blackwater, which most people would never have even noticed was there. And having seen a lot of them abroad, then, you know, the modern day development of these certainly has improved. So I would like that explored, please, as part of the review of the lattice tower.
Okay, thank you. I've got an officer who wants to come in. Gavin Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just want to give my view on the lattice tower dilemma, insofar that if you were minded to change it fundamentally in appearance, it raises concerns with me about the process we're going through to do this with the condition. if it's a lattice tower at the moment, if you were minded by condition to make it appear like a tree or some other feature that you were minded to support, it precludes other people from having a view on that. And as Councillor Parsons and others have pointed out, that's a subjective thing. Some people like it, some people don't. My own view on this is that it's been submitted as a lattice tower. I would urge you to make your decision on what's been submitted and what the public's seen and haven't raised any objection to. Just to put that in more simple terms, if it had been submitted as a different form of tower, say as a fake tree or something else, members of the public might have had a view on that. They might have supported it or they might have been against it. So we're just precluding them from the process. Just add caution, Chairman, if you are to proceed down this route, that there is a risk there. I think you should make the decision on what's been submitted today with regard to the tower. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you for your comments, but I don't think you should be trying to lead the planning committee in our decision making at the moment. So, Chris Batters.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm a little bit concerned about this lattice tower, but then again, I don't think I've ever seen any towers put up anywhere without there's been some form of complaint against them being lattice or otherwise. I won't say I'm oversold on seeing trees sticking around the county, you know, false trees. I mean, it can be somewhat confusing to our birds, perhaps, but that's only a joke, of course. But the thing is, I'm in favour of making the lattice tower look as good as possibly can, but it's a lattice tower after all, and I can see where Gavin Smith is coming from on this, and I feel at the moment that I don't know that I'm in favour necessarily of trees being put there, but if it's a concern that members have, I'm happy to go with it. But let's be honest, all the lattice towers in the county after a couple of months have been perfectly acceptable. You don't hear people talk about them, don't even notice them. But so I'm not sold on the tree idea that Sue is, but I respect what Sue says, of course. But just to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Adrian Parsons.
Thanks, Chair. I would be happy to move a recommendation for this application as it's set out, with all we've said with regards to the security and the visiting hours being monitored, but with the lattice as it is, because we're going to have to move forward one way or another with this application, aren't we?
We have a proposal recommendation being proposed, which has a seconder, so we'll have to take that first. If you don't agree with that and that falls, then if you make you've got notice of further, you've given notice of further recommendation, haven't you?
Yes. Councillor Kaczmarek, it's Sarah Goodall here, Democratic Services. Can I just check with Councillor Batters if he's still content to second Councillor Nicholas's proposal, as she is quite firm on the fact that a tree-like construction should be looked at?
Councillor Batters?
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Well, I'm not against what Sue is saying, but I think, I would rather you went back to Sue and said, would she be happy for us to proceed with it as it stands, without the trees being even a condition of it? I mean, yes, okay, she's already listed how she would like consideration to be given towards the lattice work. But I mean, I'm happy to follow her lead on this one, and I think I'd be happier if she dropped the need to go Googling for trees around the world, but see what she says, Chair, if you must. Thank you.
Okay. So if you want to come back in.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't see why people have an issue with looking at something that might be a lot more aesthetically pleasing than a lattice tower. And that's what I'm proposing, that actually is explored. There is no reason why it can't be looked at in terms of an alternative to that, whatever that would look like. I just find it difficult that we're supposed to be, all this ecology, and we're supposed to be preserving the planet, and then we're wanting to stick great big metal structures up instead of considering what should be an alternative. But yeah, I mean, if people aren't that concerned about how it looks, then that's fine by me.
Okay, thank you. Keep getting Ben.
Yeah,
There's no flashing up. There's no hand going up, Ben.
No, that's right. I don't always put my hand up, Chairman. Just to say, I would agree with what Gavin has advised. I think we need to be very careful, don't we, if we're trying to consider something that isn't on the table already. And I think perhaps you've come round to that now. But I do think you should take, heed of what Gavin was saying. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Right, Councillor Code.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I will have to object to this application if there's a condition of artificial trees. They're brilliant in the right place. I know some places near woodland and in the countryside, very, very appropriate. But this is a completely different place. And a tree coming out of an electricity substation is going to look most peculiar. I'd have to object unless there is a change in the way that the suggestion from Councillor Nicholas has put forward.
Okay, thank you. And this is taking longer than I thought it would take, but it's being well debated. We have a proposer and seconder. We know what that proposal is for the recommendation. And if you're not in agreement of that there, then you vote against. But at the moment, we have a proposer and seconder, and we do have a notification that from Councillor Parsons, he wished to make a further recommendation if this one fails. So we shall now move to the vote.
Chairman, when I asked, did Councillor Nicholas not remove the trees in her last statement?
No, she didn't remove the trees.
Right, in that case, I will withdraw seconding that proposal.
I suggested that we actually explore alternatives to a lattice tower.
Okay.
So, Councillor Kaczmarek, Sarah Goodall, Democratic Services Officer here. So, Councillor Nicholas, just to confirm that you are asking the planning officers to review the design of the lattice tower with regards to improving the look of it. Is that right? But you are not specifically directing them. You're asking them to review. So there is a chance that they review the design and it stays as it is, and that would be acceptable to you. But you would like to ask them to review it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So if I just have a confirmation from Matt and from Gavin that they think that's acceptable, just as a condition they can work with, and we don't need to explore, in more detail on that.
Thanks, Sarah. It's Gavin Smith here. My view is that it's not acceptable because it fundamentally changes what's been proposed in terms of appearance, as I said before. Nothing further to say on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. This is getting complicated now. So we have a proposal by Sue about the lattice tower and the viewing platform by appointment only, which I think we should be voting on. If that does fail, then we shall go to the proposal by Adrian, for another recommendation.
Councillor Kaczmarek, Sarah Goodall, Democratic Services. We don't actually have a current seconder for that proposal now, as Councillor Batters has withdrawn his support of the proposal. Okay. So we'll be looking for a further proposer or another seconder for Councillor Nicholas.
I'm willing to second Councillor Nicholas. John Hurd.
Okay, so we've got a seconder for Councillor Nicholas.
Okay, so we can vote on the proposal that we have in front of us, which is to just to remind members what you're voting on. You're voting on the application as set out in the recommendation, with the further condition that was circulated in the addendum, with two further conditions, which are, as previously discussed, the restriction to access to the viewing platform on an appointment-only basis, and a request to the planning officers that they improve the design of the lattice tower, aesthetically improve the design of the lattice tower. But I just do need to note, Chairman, that this is going against the planning officers and the legal representatives' advice to the committee. I just need to note that for the minute. So I'll call you in turn, councillors, and if you could state whether or not you are voting for, against, or abstaining on the proposal in front of you now that I've just explained. I hope that you're all clear on that. If anyone isn't, if they could just say now, I'll just give a quick break. Okay, I'm going to call you in turn. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Batters.
Against.
Councillor Bull.
Against.
Councillor Code.
Against.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Foot.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
Against.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Kasmarak.
Against.
Councillor Long.
Against.
Councillor Nicholas.
For.
Councillor Parsons.
Against.
And Councillor Rand.
Against.
And that proposal has been lost, Chairman, with 4 votes for and 9 votes against. So you'll be looking for another proposal.
Okay, I've got Councillor Coe put his hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I propose that we accept this application as set out in the report with no extra conditions attached.
Okay, Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, can I second that, please? But can we also, if Councillor Code would be minded to add the piece about security and with regards to people viewing, if perhaps it was done by a booking system, please, or whatever is minded by the officers.
No, I'm sorry, I don't think that's necessary at all. My submission stands that we should go as per the report.
Okay, do we have a seconder for Councillor Code's proposal? Councillor Foot?
I'm happy to second the proposal by Councillor Code.
You're happy to second it, okay. Okay, so this is a recommendation. The recommendation now is as set out with to include the condition 14 that's in the addendum. Sarah, is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor Kasmarak. We have a proposal by Councillor Code, seconded by Councillor Foot, to approve the application as set out in the report with the additional condition in the addendum. I will call your names alphabetically, members, and again, if you could state if you are voting for, against or abstaining. Councillor Bastin.
Against.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Code.
For.
Councillor Evans.
Against.
Councillor Foot.
For.
Councillor Greenslade.
Against.
Councillor Hurd.
Against.
Councillor Kasmarak.
For.
Councillor Long.
For.
Councillor Nicholas.
Against.
Councillor Parsons.
Against.
And Councillor Rand.
Against.
And Chairman, that proposal has also been lost, 6 votes for, 7 against. So we're now looking for a further proposal.
Councillor Batters, you have your hand up?
Yes, Chair. I'm happy to second what Councillor Parsons recommended a short while ago if he wishes to propose it. If he doesn't, then I'll propose that we go with as recommended, but with the booking system for the viewing platform. But I will willingly second Councillor Parsons' proposal if you wish.
Okay, so are you still proposing that, Councillor Parsons?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Chairman. I'm not sure if Councillor Greenslade would like to add some comments, as I thought what he said earlier was a very good solution to the concerns which some of the people raised.
Okay, we have a proposal, Secretary. I can't see anyone else wanting to speak on this. I think we've debated it enough. So the proposal now, sir, if you just read it out, please.
Yep, certainly, Chairman. So now we have the proposal to approve the application as set out in the report with the further condition included in the addendum, but also a request to a condition that public access is restricted to the viewing platform via a booking system. And if I could ask you again, alphabetical order, to let me know if you are voting for, against or abstaining on the application. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Batters.
4.
Councillor Bull.
4.
Councillor Code.
4.
Councillor Evans.
4.
Councillor Foot.
4.
Councillor Greenslade.
4.
Councillor Hurd.
4.
Councillor Kasmerak.
4.
Councillor Long.
4.
Councillor Nicholas.
4.
Councillor Parsons.
4.
And Councillor Rand.
4.
And Chairman, that has been passed unanimously.
Thank you for that, committee members, and thank you for having such a debate on what I thought was going to be quite a quick meeting today, but it's something I think that we're all concerned about, and people have debated this very, very well. So thank you for that. Item 5 on the agenda. Any other business that the chairman considers to be of urgency? I have none. So I wish you all a safe and well day, and hopefully make the most of lockdown if you can.
Thank you, Chair. Thank everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you all.